For the most 80s looking cassette player, I chose the most 80s sounding cassette. I figured it was just the way to go. But what we have here is an interesting find. I got this at Savers for $6. Oftentimes when I'm running out of video ideas, I take a spin by the local thrift shops just to get some ideas and some inspiration. And sometimes I leave with objects that I feel would make great content for my viewers, and that's where this came from. My days of using Walkman type cassette players and CD players and just radios in general are long gone. I mean, I switched to iPods for, all of my portable listening needs. Although this would be really cool to use on my motor scooter, which was designed in 1986. Even though it was made in 98, it was a leftover design or a carryover. This would look great on the dashboard of that thing. But that's not what I'm going to do with it. So this is actually a 1987 Magnavox D6643. It actually, for its time period, this is a pretty well-featured model. Digital tuners hadn't really made it big on portable radios I think mainly for cost reasons. And so it still features an analog tuner. But it does feature a 3-band equalizer, auto reverse mechanism, and it still receives AM and FM radio. And it's also in this super cool 80s yellow. There's no other term for this color other than 80s yellow. I think it's brilliant. And it has, of course, black trim around it. I cleaned this up a lot. I mean, it was pretty grody to the max when I got it. If you know what song that's from, feel free to post it in the comments box. I won't give you anything, but at least you'll get props for me. Anyway, so I'm still overcoming this cold. I've made about a series of almost 4 videos this weekend, and I sound like crap in all of them, which is no improvement from any of the other videos I've made, because let's just face it, even I hate the sound of my own voice. So anyway, this unit here is lucky enough to still have its original belt clip attachment, which is removable. A lot of times these get lost. And not many of these have survived the 80s because they were used primarily by young adults and children. And of course people who were jogging and exercising a lot. That's what they were intended for. I mean, they're designed for an active lifestyle. And as a result of that said active lifestyle, many of them were destroyed. Not this one. It survived. Which makes it really rare. I don't know what's on this cassette tape. It came in one of the radios I got years ago, but let's take a look inside here. You can see there's at least one motor. I think it's a dual motor drive. I think I saw 2 motors in there when I had it apart. And I did clean the heads and the cap stands and pinch rollers. Because they were pretty gross, or grody to the max, as they would have said in 1987. The only thing really wrong with this, it does need the belt to be reconditioned. I have successfully reconditioned dozens of cassette player belts. As long as they're not dissolving into gunk, they're usually pretty salvageable. Finding a replacement belt, I'd have to actually get a measurement on it, and I'm sure I could find one. But I'm going to try to recondition it first. We're not going to do that today, because this unit is very hard to take apart. One of the things about 1980s electronics, especially little radios like this, is they're very difficult to service, because many of them, they hadn't moved to push-type connectors at that point. These were assembled and soldered by the same person, in many cases, or in an assembly line. So they'd mount the circuit board on top, and then the next person in line would solder all the connectors to the board. So the only way to get it apart is to desolder a lot of the connections. And unfortunately, to get to the belt, you have to take the board off. They were not intended to be serviced. They were intended to be disposed of when they broke, which is it's nothing new. A lot of people mistake modern devices for introducing that concept, but that's not true at all. The other problem is the headphone jack is a little messed up, and I'm going to now show you what I mean. So I'm going to see how the AM/FM radio works. I'm going to turn that on. I'll tune something in here. Sounds pretty good. Yeah, turn the volume up. If I move it just a little bit,
the executive chef at a British beer company.
just a little bit of movement causes it to cut out from one side or the other. Now that is entirely fixable. In fact, everything that's wrong with this can be easily fixed. You know what? Let's give it a shot. Let's take it apart. I want to see if I can get to that belt, because I had it apart briefly, but I hadn't really done anything to go any further with it. I didn't really try fixing anything with it, wrong with it. Let's take the batteries out. It runs on 2 AA's, which is typical, and you can clearly see that there was some battery leakage at one point, which is very common, unfortunately. And let's try to pop the back cover off here. Got to remove the belt clip. And sorry if you can't see anything. It's just how we do things here. But I will show you. I'll just describe the process as I move along. So we're just going to take the top screws off here. Like I said, I did have this partially disassembled, but I really want to show you what I mean about difficulty in servicing these earlier portables. Put a towel down so I don't scratch it up. There we go. Okay. But you're going to see some technologies that you just won't see anymore in this. See, back in those days, they still did a lot of through-hole soldering, and nowadays everything is surface mount. So this doesn't really look like anything made today, and naturally it wouldn't. So here we go. Let's take these screws out. There's one on the bottom I need to pop off. 2, actually. There's 2 here. And I need a smaller screwdriver for that. Let's see what I got. I'm probably one of the few people who keeps a set of screwdrivers on his kitchen counter. One of the reasons I built this kitchen counter, interestingly enough, is so that I could do videos like this. Honestly, that's one of the reasons I built it. Alright, let's get those screws off. I think we're almost there. I got, oh, one more. One more hidden in the back here. I did a quick look up on this model on eBay, and I was shocked at how little it was selling for. You would think because of its rarity it would be worth a little more, but it's not really worth much. It's worth a little more than I paid, of course, but not by much. It's not what I expected to see. Sometimes I like to resell things after I make the videos. I just don't have the room to keep everything around, you know. Some people have giant houses. I have a tiny condo that unfortunately I can't sell because of the real estate market is so bad. But believe me, if I could, I would. So it looks like we might be able to swing the board away. So let's take a look in here. So this is pretty Jurassic technology. Not something you'll see today in anything. And the belt partly is visible right here. That's where the motor is. And I thought I saw an additional motor in here. But let's try to pop the board off. If I break anything, I'll just resolder it. No biggie. The good thing is, a lot of these are pretty easy solder jobs. Actually, it looks like the entire mechanism might come out pretty easily. I could be wrong, but yeah. Make sure I get all the screws. The equalizer may have to come off. This little bracket's going to have to come off too. Let's do that. Okay. Get that out of the way. In 1987, I was all of 4 years old, and my first cassette player I didn't get until I was 10. I think I'm doing this wrong. You're doing it all wrong, he says to himself. You're doing it all wrong. That board should not be flexing like that. No siree. It's being hung up on something. What might that be? Yeah, I gotta get this board out of the way, and it ain't behaving so well. Aha! I got it. I figured it out. Okay. It looks like there is... there's no screws, but I might have to remove this yellow cover. Yep. Okay. I know you can't see what I'm seeing, but you just have to bear with me on this. The front cover with the equalizer stuff on it has to come off. And that... did I break it? No, I didn't break it. He didn't break it. Oh my god. Okay. But that all has to be removed. No, it didn't break. We're fortunate of that. Okay. Let's see here. Try to position this a little better. We're working on it. Okay. This board has to come out through the back. I think I'm going to have to go like that. There we go. There, it takes care of that. And what else am I getting hung up on? Yeah. Aha! Okay. These wires are encapsulated in wax, and that's what's preventing me from getting the board to swing out. Wax encapsulation was very popular then. They used to do it on everything, it seems. And the only way to get around it is to re-encapsulate it after. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. I swear to God. Okay. This is one of those cases where sometimes it's better to just leave well enough alone. Oh, I found a hidden screw. Found it. Okay, so we got to get that screw out of there. It's holding the equalizer board in place. Alright. Long freaking screw. Okay, good. Got it. Scalpel. Okay. There's a pretty good chance one of these wires, at least one, is going to undo itself. But we're pretty much right there. We can get to the belts. We can clean them off and do what we need to do. But that's it. We're at the heart of the machine. It is only one motor. It's a tiny little motor, but there's more than one belt. It's got two little flywheels for smooth operation, but you can see there's a lot of slip here. And let's start by taking off the main drive belt and making sure to note which direction everything is wound. Okay, good. I've got video evidence here, and I'm going to take this belt off. I'm going to clean it up, put it back on again. I use rubbing alcohol, which removes the first layer of oxidization. In all the electronics I've worked on in the past, it's always worked for me. You know, it probably isn't the right way to do it. The right way is to use some sort of rubber rejuvenator, but I don't have any, so. I might also take a little bit of clock oil. No, that won't be necessary. But I was thinking, take a little bit of clock oil, right? And then take care of all the pivots. So anyway, there you go. Okay, so we've got the belts cleaned up a little bit. They were covered in oxidization, dust, and dirt, and you can see it on my rag here. I like these shop rags because they don't leave any lint behind. They're very nice for that very reason. Now we got to put the belts back on, and then we're going to work on this audio jack. I think I have a solution for it. It feels very loose to me, which could mean as simple as a broken solder joint somewhere. I'm hoping that's all it is. Alright, the belts are cleaned and put back in place. There's no more slippage. I can verify that by yeah, definitely it looks a lot better than it did. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm testing the tension on all the pulleys here while I'm holding the motor pulley in place, and it's feeling really nice and tight. So we fixed that problem. So now it should auto-reverse as it's intended to. The next thing we need to do is look at this jack and find out what the hell's wrong with it. It's very loose, but I don't see any broken solder joints like I expected. It's almost as if the jack itself is broken. In fact, that may very well be true. The problem is, it's a difficult jack to work on. Just by the nature of its design. By the way, this is what the tuner looks like. It's got a cable that runs from the tuning knob to the tuner itself, and then it wraps around to an indicator to indicate the approximate position of the tuner. Very old school. This is a design that dates way back to the 1920s. Yeah, I know, old school, but it worked. And you know what? And if you buy an analog tuner today, which they still make them, that's exactly how the tuning indicator still works to this very day. Now, I'm looking at the audio jack again, and I'm not really sure what the primary malfunction is. It'd be nice to find a replacement jack, but that's unrealistic. I think what really happened here is that the jack simply broke, and it broke. The connectors broke off the board on the other side of the board. And if that's the case, it may not be repairable. Now I'm using a flashlight now to see if I can get a better look here at the jack and see if I find anything else broken. Okay. Maybe if I can pop the cover off the jack, I can have a better chance at fixing it. Okay, so I pulled out my soldering iron because there's no other way to fix it. I have to take the jack off and figure out where the break is inside the device itself. I may have to build kind of like an extension off of one of the connectors or contacts. and run that through the board. But the good thing about working on these old radios and electronics is that they were assembled with leaded solder. And aside from the health risks, leaded solder melts like butter. And it just is so much easier to work with. Chances are one of these is going to break during the manhandling of this assembly, but it's just a fact of life. So I'm going to let that warm up. Pretty glad I was able to fix this. And the belts, by the way, they don't feel gummy at all. They still have a lot of strength to them, so that's good. Okay, I've removed the audio jack, the headphone jack. It's in my hand here, and I'm looking at the device itself. There is no sign of any damage or breaking. The contacts are just plain dirty, so I'm trying to figure out a simple way to clean them. And I have an idea, but I don't have. If I had a set of clock-bearing reamers, this would be a perfect opportunity to use them. They're little tiny files, very small, and I could stick one in the jack and kind of use it to clean up the corrosion on the, not corrosion, but the oxidization on the contact. But so what you're looking at, and I can't get any closer, is there's two contacts here that clamp onto the tip of the headphone plug, and there should be a third contact. That's one, two, there's three there. One neutral and one left and one right. And yeah, that's about right. So yeah, I don't know if I have another jack like this I could just attach to it. That'd be cool. Okay, so here's what I came up with. I took some 1000 grit sandpaper and rolled it around the tip of a screwdriver, and then reamed it into the headphone jack. And I'm rolling it around like so. And what this is doing is it's removing any oxidization without destroying the contacts, hopefully. And let's see how that works out. I don't think that really worked. I think that was a bad idea. Well, that's okay. That's okay. It's still good. It's still good. But yeah, I don't think that worked. It sounded good, but, well, yeah, no. Although I did remove a lot of oxidization from the barrel, which may help. I'm just trying to polish up those contacts as much as I can. I'm going to try. I then rammed a thinned down cotton swab through there to remove any dust particles. And that's as far as I'm going to go with it. The contacts aren't damaged. Everything looks good. They haven't made it worse, at least. Which is kind of important, you know. I mean, the jack seems to be just fine. So let's reattach it to the board. I did notice there's what looks to be a broken solder joint here. It could just be an illusion, and it is. It's actually flux. Alright. Okay. So I've got to hold this in place. Whoa. Sorry about that. Okay. I'll hold this in place and resolder it. Yep. Okay. Now, one thing I've noticed now that I've reattached the headphone jack is that it doesn't move anymore. So I think I might have been onto something. I think that perhaps the contact could have broken free, even though it wasn't visible in the solder joint, because it could have broken free from behind. That's entirely possible, and because it doesn't really poke through all the way, well, that could be why it wasn't visible. So I think, well, it moves around a little bit, not as much as it did before. Let's give it a shot. Now we're going to take a look and see if we made any progress. Okay, so let's first let's take a look at the belt drive, make sure we got that all squared away. I'm going to play the tape. Okay, I'm already at the end of the leader. Let's try that again. Now we know it worked from this position. Let's confirm that. Okay, good. Now we're going to take the tape out. And hit play again. And we're going to see if it flips. Oh, there it goes. So we fixed that problem. Now let's check the audio jack. Oh, how sweet. Perfect. The tape has a low spot in it. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. We fixed both problems. It didn't cost a penny, and we saved another antique. I mean, now it's pretty much an antique. It's over 25 years old. Radio. That's a success if I ever saw one. Everything still works. And while I had it apart, I cleaned the backing covers for the equalizer, so they are free of dust. And I found one little crack in one of the little support towers right here on this corner, and I took some shrink tubing. This is marine grade shrink tubing, and I shrunk it around that to stiffen it up a little bit. So that's all fixed. You know, this has been a very successful. Oops! I one of the dust covers for the AM/FM switch did not get tucked in. I have to pull the cover back off. But that's an easy fix. And bitchin'. Gnarly.